So today I got a box from my aunt and it had a bunch of random fabrics in it. And they're all just kind of remnants, so I've got to come up with some projects to make with them because no fabric gets left behind. So today I think I'm going to try my first wrap skirt using this remnant, which I'm pretty sure is enough fabric. I guess we'll find out. Alright, so I'm going to start by measuring where I want my skirt to land at, which is probably about where my shorts are. And, oh my, well, you don't need to know what that number is, but take it for yourself. So then I'm going to draft my pattern, I think, with half that number for the back, but I want like a 1/2 inch on both sides for my seam allowance, so I'm going to add another inch to that, do that straight across. And then I measured from where I want my skirt to start at on my waist to like a little bit shorter, a couple inches shorter, because I'm going to put a ruffle on it. So I took off like 2 inches for the length. So I came out with 12 inches for mine, but we'll see how that goes. And since I wanted to have a little bit of flare to it, I'm just going to kind of make these sides off at an angle a little bit. And then I'm just going to kind of draw some lines in here to connect it. As you can see from here, this is my across length, and then I just measured down how long I want it before the ruffles, and I just flared it out to the sides a little bit, and now we cut. Okay, for my front piece, I'm going to trace the back piece first. Which this is kind of a waste of paper, but I just can't think of a smarter way to do this yet. Alright, so now that I have that, I'm going to measure in a few inches, let's say like 5 inches, and then I'm going to just kind of make a curve around. Alright, don't use the ruler, April, because that's not helpful. Hopefully that's enough. This is going to be my front piece. I guess I should have done it in a darker piece, but when I, or a darker marker, but when I cut it out, I think you'll be able to see it. And we'll use one piece for both sides. We'll just flip it over when we cut the pattern, the fabric. Okay, so now hopefully this makes more sense. So I traced the other piece, and then I just made a top piece by curving out an angle. So when the skirt is on, it'll be like that. And then I'm going to cut that piece both ways so it wraps both directions. So I'm going to start cutting my fabric out. I pinned it all in place. You know, I watch a lot of YouTubers making stuff, and some people never pin their fabric when they cut it out, and I just wish I had that kind of confidence. I just got my first rotary cutter, even though I've been sewing for, I don't know, extremely casually, a couple years, very regularly since quarantine started. And I just got my rotary cutter, and I just am not confident enough to throw a pattern on and just start cutting all willy-nilly. That's some BSE, some big sewing energy, and I just don't have it. So very carefully.
Quick note right here, remember to flip over your pattern piece so you don't end up with two of the same side. And also, you should label your pattern piece which straight line is the side and which is the top, because I actually ended up confusing myself a little bit.
Alright, so we're going to start the assembly, and those aren't my pieces. Oh my goodness, get it together. Alright, so here is our back piece. You know, a lot of people also wash their fabrics before they start, and I'm not going to pretend like that's a bad idea, because it probably also would really help me. Alright, so we're going to assemble these right sides facing each other. Alright, now put on your skirt, you're done. Just kidding, but you can see it's coming along. I also like to always zigzag stitch. I haven't yet, but I'm about to do that right now. Zigzag stitch along the edges of all my seams, just so your fabric doesn't go to town fraying and coming apart when you're wearing it. Or if you have a serger, you're cool and use that too. Alright, so now that the basic shape of my skirt is put together, I think what I'm gonna do next for the ruffles is measure like around this. I mean, I just really need a rough estimate. I think it's about 21 inches. So I'm assuming the other side would be the same. And, oh, well, there you go. Everything is 21. All right, so I'm just laying my mat down on top of my fabric to about 3 inches from end to end. And then I'm just going to draw a line along the bottom, and hopefully it comes out right, but it's going to be ruffly, so I don't feel like it's going to be that noticeable, even if it's not completely straight. Hopefully not. That's the hope anyways. So don't take my word for it. I haven't done it yet.
I want to mention what I'm actually cutting because I forgot to tell you. It is a ruffle for going around the edges. So take the number that you got from measuring the sides and the back, add it all together, and then double it, and you need that length to make a ruffle.
Alright, so I cut out all my strips, and I'm just going to sew them together to make the ultimate ruffle. Okay, so I sewed all my strips together into one long strip. Just put them right sides facing, so along the edge. And now, before I turn them into a ruffle, I'm just going to double roll the bottom and hem along hem along the bottom. Sorry, it's so hot today, I can't find my words. But anyways, double roll the bottom, and then we're just going to hem all along this whole strip. So make sure you check your bobbin before you do this, because you don't want to run out halfway, because that would suck. So yes, hem the bottom. Okay, so now that I finally hemmed the bottom and I sewed them all together, and I also hemmed the edges, finally we are going to do a basting stitch all the way across the top. And if you don't know what a basting stitch is, just put your machine on its largest stitch and put one stitch all the way down the whole thing, but don't back stitch the beginning or the end. All right, so now that that's done, I'm gonna start making my ruffles. It will probably take me about a year. That's what I get for liking fluffy stuff. Oh my god, that took so long. Went a little wild with the chapstick. Anyways, once that's all done, we can finally start attaching it to our skirt. And we do this other way. Right side's facing with this flipped up, so when it flips down, it's attached like that. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. Right side's facing, ruffle's flipped up. When it flips down, you got the perfect ruffle. All right, so I finally got this all pinned down. It's starting to fray a little bit, but that's okay. We're gonna go back over. Well, first we're gonna sew it on, and then I'm gonna go back over with the zigzag stitch. So this is my underneath side, and I zigzag stitched all the way to the end and all the way up this, and then I'm just going to hem it in, like where the, you know, how the ruffle starts folding it over. I'm just going to hem that up all the way to the top. So I took a little break and I came back, but back to work. Here I am. I am measuring the top of my skirt, and it's kind of a rough estimate because if I'm being honest, I kind of make everything big and then just cut it if I can, but I'm measuring it so I can cut out a top waistband to go around the edge of this. So here I'm just measuring out my waistband. I made it the same length as my skirt, or a little bit longer. I added an extra inch, so I have about a ½ inch to tuck in on each end to finish it off. And I made mine about 3 inches tall. That way it's 2 inches folded in half with a ½ inch seam allowance on the bottom of each end. So that's usually the size I make my waistband, so 3 inches, and I'm just measuring it down and, you know, draw it all out first so you get it as straight as possible and then cut it out. After you cut out your waistband, cut out a piece of interfacing the same size because we're going to iron them together. You want to give it a little bit of structure so it doesn't roll down while you're wearing it. So then you need to cut out some strips. I think mine were like 36 and 24, but they were pretty long. So measure around your waist because this is what you're going to tie your skirt on. And I made mine about 1.5 inches thick. After that, sew your strips in half, right sides facing each other. And I like to sew one end shut so it makes the turn tube method a little bit easier to do. And then I just tuck one end in with like a skewer stick or a chopstick or even a pen, but make sure your pen is closed. And you tuck it in, and then I get my like locking tweezer tool thing that you use for pulling elastic through, and I shoot it down to the end, and I grab the part that's tucked in, and then you lock it on there, and it makes it really easy to
turn your strap inside out. And then you just work it through, pull it over, and ta-da! You will have a strip, or strippy strap. From there, sew your strap on the really long one on the inside flap because it's going to wrap all the way around you, and your shorter one on the outside, and see where it's going to come out so you can tie them. Then I hope you made a mark there because that's where you're going to put a buttonhole for your strap that wraps around to come through and tie to the front. And carefully open your buttonhole because I almost always hurt myself doing this. Then that's it. Go ahead and tie your skirt on and feel good about yourself because it's cute and you made it yourself. So, you know, tie that bad boy on and strike a pose.